I sat next to someone and they were kind of like this.
Are you serious?
Yes. And someone once said, like, it doesn't matter how much you come to Ghana with. Even if you're a rich person, you will become broke because you don't know the prices and people can cheat you. Okay, so my name is Momo.
Mom, oh, I love that.
Yeah, a lot of people call me Mobile Money. It's okay.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is April and you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you guys can see, today we are back with another segment where I'm talking to someone who has been living in Ghana but who is originally from abroad, as we call it. We call it abroad. Yeah, but she's actually from the United States. She's an African American and her name is Momo. She's been living in Ghana for 5 years. She's gone to school in Ghana, she's been homeschooled in Ghana, she has interacted with Ghanaians, and today she's going to tell her story, what it's like for an African American to be living in Ghana.
Well, I've been living in Ghana for about 5 years now, and originally I wasn't sure that I wanted to come to Ghana. Originally, when my mom asked me, I was like, no, I don't want to come to Africa.
Sorry to interrupt, how old were you when your mom was, talking about coming to Africa?
I was 15.
You were 15, so you were a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And of course that time is a bit, it's difficult for most people in their teen years, especially with such a change.
Yeah, I actually listened to quite a few misconceptions about Africa, so I was really afraid to come. Like, I thought most of the women would have to wear scarves around their head. I was very ignorant back then, so I didn't know much about Africa.
Where did you hear these misconceptions from?
I actually heard them from some friends that I knew. They might say things like, well, I don't think you would be able to keep in contact with us because I don't think you have internet, or things like that.
Okay, so I think this is very, very important because the reality is, even from my experience, I mean, I lived in Ukraine and in Russia for quite long periods of time, and a lot of people have this misconception, mostly, propagated by the media and stuff, that Africa, there is no internet, that people don't sleep in houses, people sleep on trees, people don't wear clothes, and things like that.
Like, sometimes when you see commercials, they're asking you to donate money so that people in Africa can be fed and, given water. And I'm just like,
when you see those kinds of things, then you think, God, where am I going, right?
Yeah.
Where am I going?
I didn't know anything about Ghana, so I was actually really concerned.
You were concerned. But when you finally came to Ghana, how was it like, considering what you thought you were coming to and then the reality of it?
Well, there was a lot more than I expected. But I was kind of not used to seeing chotros and stuff. Like when we first went to a hotel, actually, we were going to a market because we didn't have any food. So the lady put us on a chotro, and I wasn't used to it because the guy was grabbing my arm, just put me in the chotro. I'm like, am I being kidnapped? What's happening?
You were confused.
Yes.
Wow. But then, you know something about certain things like chotros. I believe 5 years ago YouTube was quite, out there, and Google was there. So why didn't you do a bit of research, or why didn't your mom or someone, do a bit of research and educate you a bit about where you were coming to?
Well, actually, my mom visited Ghana.
Oh.
She stayed for about 2 weeks, and she brought a few food items. That's the first time I had sugar bread in the US. But she told me a few things, but I guess I wasn't mentally prepared.
Okay, so you've come to see what Ghana is like, and then you started going to school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went to JHS because I wanted to actually freshen up on my studies. But what I realized was that they teach completely differently than where I come from, so it was really hard for me to catch up to certain things. Mostly, I did well in English.
Of course.
Yeah.
But what was the difference in teaching? And can you give an example of maybe a difference?
Well, it's strange because the teachers give you books, but it's kind of like you're just writing down notes from the book. It's like I'm not really being taught anything. I could have bought these books myself and just wrote them down.
The teaching is not very, should I say, interactive and open. It's more of everything by the book. So if you are writing notes, they will just copy the notes on the board, and then you take the notes. That's what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, and in the US, what is it like? What is the teaching system like?
So teaching in the US, I don't know, I personally got used to how they would teach in the US. They give you fun tactics, but I guess they do that in Ghana as well. I wasn't really schooled when I was like that young, but definitely when I came, it was taught differently. A lot of like the mechanics they had towards learning math, I couldn't understand, like I couldn't get it mentally because they were going so fast. And
Oh, they were going fast.
Mhm.
Okay, so you were struggling with actually grasping the material. Wow.
And I really want to like learn the tree and the French as well because a lot of people said like when you go to the schools then you'll be able to learn the language, but the reality is they start from your grade level. So when you're trying to learn how to write tree, you have to start from JHS level. They won't start from the beginning, and you really have to start from the beginning. I think I got a few tips, like I learned the alphabet from the students. They were teaching me a few things, but they couldn't start from the beginning for me. A lot of people were telling me like they were saying, well, your nephew's half Ghanaian, so he can teach you tree. But the thing is, my nephew's only 2 years old. He doesn't even speak English yet, and in the house he'll be speaking English because that's what we all speak. So it's very difficult for me to like speak tree because I won't remember it because I'll mostly be speaking English. So the first school I went to was called the California School. And I went there because, you know, I was born in California and it's an international school. So I thought, okay, that's like perfect. But I actually didn't do well at all at that school. I did not like that school. I ran home crying the same day and then my mom unenrolled me like the following Monday.
What happened in that school?
Okay, so I didn't like the treatment. Firstly, like they asked me to cut my hair, and like I had to beg him. Like, is there anything I can do because I don't want to cut my hair? But he was explaining to me that he didn't want me to disrespect the girls, and yeah, I don't want to disrespect anyone at the same time. But I just thought like he would understand where I was coming from. Maybe I can put my hair in like braids or something. So I convinced him into putting it into a small ponytail where my hair just looked really short. And he's like, okay, that works. So when we got there, and it was actually very expensive at that school. It was very expensive. I didn't really like the treatments. See, people still looked at me like I didn't really belong there, or they're like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here? And then the teachers, like, specifically my French teacher, I told you I came to the schools to learn French and English, and my worst teacher was my French teacher. So he was actually criticized. I don't know if, you know, that's controversial, so it's like he was kind of like worried more so about how I wrote instead of like what I wrote and how I was able to learn, and I just thought that was really unprofessional. The teachers were like, oh, don't you want like jollof rice? And I'm like, no, I'll take benku. And they're like, what? I'm sorry, what? She eats benku?
Yeah, so people's reactions to your choices were unpleasant.
And I'm like, I've been eating benku for like a year now. I mean, you come to Ghana and you want to try all of the foods, right? I can say I've eaten fufu and I don't like it, but I like benku. I've heard a lot of Ghanaians tell me when they go to America, they prefer their foods, but they still eat the foods there. So I don't know why people treat me like that. Like, I'm not just going to eat rice my entire time being in Ghana.
Especially if you live here for a long period of time. I mean, I experienced the same thing. So I just want to know, why do you think people were treating you differently?
Some people have said it's because of of course, my color, my skin tone. I was the lightest person in the classroom. That's what I'll say. I didn't look like anyone.
Okay.
And of course, that was years ago, so, you know, I've darkened since then.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, obviously, when I spoke, I had an accent.
After a while of going to JHS, you decided to opt for homeschooling.
Yeah.
Who took that decision and why?
I made the decision myself, personally because like it was getting expensive for me, because, you know, a lot of people think that I have money and things like that, but no. So I didn't want to have to keep paying for that if I was just going to be treated the way I was being treated there. And I didn't like necessarily that people kept calling me Obruni. There was a lot of times where I just felt like out of place. And one time I sat next to someone. It was really hard to like connect with people. And what made it worse is I sat next to someone and they were kind of like this.
Are you serious?
Yes, I sat next to him and he did that to me, and I'm just like, wow. So that made me feel like, you know, I'm some sort of disease or something, because I just can't sit next to you without you squirming and looking away.
Okay, I'm honestly shocked because despite the fact that I have experienced some not very good things in school, in Ghana, this to me is a bit overboard, because why would anybody do that?
I'm not sure. Maybe he was afraid of me. Maybe I just looked too different. I don't know. I just couldn't handle it. Every day I went to the schools and there was always something that I just couldn't deal with. You know, the students always treating me differently. Being called Obruni, you know, people teasing the way I eat. And also, you know, there was this one boy in the classroom. Like, sometimes I'm just wondering, you know, are your parents raising you correctly? Because I would never say this to anyone just because they're not from Ghana. And I keep hearing a lot of times that the reason why someone will say this is because you don't speak Tree. So they'll say you don't speak Tree, and that's why mostly younger kids will say something disrespectful or rude or something. But I don't know. I think that comes from parents. Like, it got to the point where I just thought the word Obruni is disrespectful, because I've heard a lot of people say that, like, Obruni means white, and then Obruni means foreigner and things like that. But I'm like, why do you keep changing the terms? It means one thing or another. And if you're calling me white, then I take that as, you know, I don't really take that respectfully, because, I mean, I'm not white. And I don't like being classified as just white.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, it is offensive to people who are not white. I'm sure even some white people are offended. It's like walking on the streets and shouting black.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Hey, black girl, come here.
You did school in the US though, for some time, in a school.
Yeah.
And did you ever experience anything similar to what you experienced in Ghana in terms of bullying? In terms of anything like that?
No. In fact, I blended in very well. I can't say I was popular because I was an introvert then too, but I think I mostly became more of an introvert in Ghana because I just strictly just couldn't relate at all, and I felt very isolated. And a lot of times people would always, that's the thing, a lot of times a lot of Africans tell me why I'm so quiet, why can't I relate, but the reality is, like, you don't really know my experience coming to Ghana and how I was treated. And because I couldn't relate and I was treated badly in the schools, I didn't really have a good time connecting to Ghanaians. I personally felt like I wanted to walk into the schools and be treated like a typical Ghanaian person would be treated.
Yeah.
And I never felt that way. You know, there's usually somebody who thinks that I'm just stuck up or just too quiet and just don't want to talk to anyone, or they just expect me to think that they're supposed to walk up and say something to me, like I'm too good to just say something to someone else. But in reality, I've always been like a very timid, quiet person. And then that's when people say, well, learn the language. It's easy. But I've tried learning the language. There's even someone who's teaching me the language. And the thing is, like, I do better writing it.
Yeah.
And then like pronouncing it, but that takes a lot of time, and even then, like, some of the writings, the pronunciations are different, so it's a very difficult process for me personally. And a lot of my friends that were around were very busy with work, you know, school, things like that, so they can't just teach me Tree. Other people were like, pay me. And I'm just like, well, I mean, I'm not rich. I can't really afford to pay someone to teach me Tree. Like, I would rather just speak English. and learn it the way you learned it. You learned it from listening to other people. And I guess in another way, like some people would expect you to learn it faster because there are other Africans that come to Ghana and they have to learn the Tree language, and they can learn it within like a year, 2 years. But me, English is really my own language, and I don't know, I find this language very, very difficult to learn, especially when like I don't speak it in the house. I don't really know anyone around me that speaks it. Everyone who sees me speaks English. So I have a sister, and she's darker than me, and she can actually blend in more so unless like she starts speaking. People would think maybe she's from a different, like African country. But I noticed a lot of times that mostly men would approach me rather than her. I've heard a lot of things like Ghanaians call themselves like black monkey, things like that.
I've heard things like that too, and I just don't understand. Like, I can't understand when people say it in other countries. I'm just shocked. Like, whether you're white, you're black, you're mixed, you're Asian, whatever, it's shocking to hear someone say that about their fellow classmates, colleague. I mean, come on.
I will say something. I am African American, so racism does exist in America. Racism exists everywhere. Colorism exists everywhere. But honestly, I've experienced more colorism in Ghana than in, America. I wasn't really being told off about my skin color as much as I am in Ghana. A lot of people, and I think it's because like I look different in Ghana, and that's the problem for me. Like, I wanted to come and blend in. I didn't want people to continuously bring up my skin tone.
Yeah. So I guess when you are coming here, you would want to be accepted, or that's what you would hope for. And you just realize that you in particular maybe don't feel accepted. Maybe other people from the States, from Europe who move to Ghana, who come to visit, maybe they feel accepted, but then you in particular, you just don't. And it's disappointing and it's a bit sad.
Well, I think the main reason why some African Americans can come to Ghana and feel more accepted is because they come to visit more so than live. When you come to live, you get to see like the good things and the bad things about Ghana. And I've seen a lot of good things, but I've also seen a lot of bad things. Sometimes people will treat you differently because they expect more from you, and that's something that I just found very difficult because I'm not a rich person. I took Trotro here, and a lot of people would expect me to take Uber or things like that. But the reality is I don't really have enough to buy Uber here, there. It gets very expensive. So I learned how to do Trotro, and it helps me like figure out where to go and things like that. I would like to say that if you are coming to Ghana, you should definitely figure out what you want to do in Ghana in terms of business and things like that, because you more so should come to Ghana based on like making careers and creating opportunities for Ghanaians and for yourself. So if I were to come back to Ghana, I would definitely want to come back with more funds to be able to sponsor those things. But I don't want to say Ghana's a bad country because I lived here for 5 years, and honestly the people here are just trying to help me be more open and be more free. But then again, I want people to see my experience and see like what I've been through, and I hope you can see this and be like, wow, she's been through a lot, instead of being like, oh, everyone goes through it, it's normal, things like that. But it's like, you really have to be like in someone's shoes and experience what they experience completely before you can like strictly judge them on that. Because a lot of things that I went through in Ghana, I didn't go through anywhere else. And like, a lot of people treat me hard strictly because like I'm here, and they're like, well, this is Ghana now, you're not in the US anymore, we're gonna treat you like we get treated, things like that. But it's like, but you're calling me Obruni and things like that. You're just treating me mean strictly for like being mean. But it's like, at the same time, you want me to learn how it is to be Ghanaian. Like, I try and help people, but obviously I'm not rich. I can't help everyone here. But just don't treat me like that, because I'm always going to feel like an outsider. I'm always going to feel like you don't want me here. And you don't understand how many times people are like, well, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from the US, and then they say, so what are you doing here? Like, how long are you gonna be here? And I'm like, well, I've been living here for 5 years. Why? Like, and then someone will be like, well, I mean, people have tried so hard to get to where you came from, but then you just decided to come live here. And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, you don't understand how many times people ask me this, but it's like, my mom wanted to live here. My sister has children. Like, that's why I'm living here. Things like that. Like, everyone's situation is different.
So if you can relate to Momo's experiences or to my experiences, then of course do tell us in the comments. If you can't relate, tell us as well. But please be open-minded, okay? So thank you so much for watching. I hope I'll see you in another video. And thank you once again, Momo.
Thanks.
So bye.
Bye.